And it's all Ryan Broyles. 81-yard touchdown strike. Landry Jones to Ryan Broyles.
You know, in sports, there's no substitute for winning. It's not like in Pee Wee League or in grade school where if you lose a game, yeah, maybe you can gain some type of a moral victory from effort, from just being there. It doesn't work that way in professional football, doesn't work that way in college football. OU found that out last week when they lost to Missouri and lost their number one BCS ranking. Entering this game against Colorado, definitely you take any type of victory you can get. And in this case, for Oklahoma, the Sooners were hoping for a big win. Well, mission accomplished as the Sooners, as expected, rout the Colorado Buffaloes in the final meeting between these two teams for a pretty long time. Final score 43-10. The Sooners 7-1 on the season and 3-1 in Big 12 play. Colorado drops to 3-5 overall, and for the Buffaloes, we'll talk a little bit more about the remainder of their schedule and perhaps the future or lack thereof of their head coach, Dan Hawkins. Halloween Eve definitely provided a lot of treats for the Sooners on offense, especially on defense, and the special teams even had a productive night. For the Sooners, 35 consecutive home victories, extending the nation's current largest home winning streak. Ryan Broyles, record-breaking night for the Sooners. In this game, he had a total of 208 reception yards off of just 9 catches. Had a couple of monster plays, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. And Landry Jones had one of the best performances in a single game any Sooner quarterback has had. It looked like maybe he was going to break Sam Bradford's record for most yards passing in the game. Didn't quite get there. He'll have to settle for a 4-touchdown, 453-yard receiving evening, completing 32 of 46 passes. So no question, the passing game for Oklahoma, very accurate. And by the way, give it up to Trent Rattery as well. He had nearly 100 yards of receptions, including, by the way, a 47-yard catch. So passing-wise on the evening, it was dominant for the Sooners. I thought the big story of the night, though, had to be the defense trying to rejuvenate themselves after the bad game in Columbia, Missouri against a potent Tiger offense. In this game, OU knew that Colorado's offense wasn't going to be anything like that, and it certainly wasn't, because we saw Cody Hawkins, who got the start because the original starting quarterback was injured last week against Texas Tech in the form of Tyler Hansen. Did not play in this game, might not play for the rest of the year because of those injured ribs. Hawkins came in, beat the Sooners 3 years ago in that stunning loss in Boulder back in 2007. Would not have any of that with the Sooners on this night. In fact, Hawkins, even though he threw it a lot, 44 times, completed only 17 passes. So he found very little success through the air. His only touchdown came in the third quarter when the game was pretty much in hand for OU. As far as the way this game started, the defense, when the offense for Oklahoma struggled to finish off drives, it was the defense that set the tone for this game. You knew Colorado was going to have a very difficult time getting anything going, establishing any type of momentum. Any thought of an upset basically was gone in the second quarter when the Sooners were able to break open a close contest with an explosive second quarter, scoring 26 points in that second. And let's go ahead and highlight the 4 keys to our game that we highlighted earlier on the weekly matchup show. Key number 1 for OU, get off to a good start. We mentioned that earlier because the Sooners had not trailed at the end of the first quarter in any game this year, and that was definitely the case tonight, where they held a 3-0 lead. I'm going to go B- because of the way the defense performed throughout the game, but especially in that first quarter where the Buffaloes offense really seemed to go nowhere. I know that the offense, even though they moved the ball well, had a difficult time finishing drives, scoring only 1 field goal in that first quarter, but the defense made sure that they did their part. They hung in there, and eventually the offense would strike in that second quarter with the big play capability, with that huge touchdown reception that we showed you at the beginning of this show. And it was the second quarter, of course, where Oklahoma simply turned out the lights on the Buffs. So I go B-. Key number 2 to this game for the Sooners, we talked about it earlier, and that was the ground attack for OU. Okay, get the ground game going. I'm going to go C+. I didn't think that the ground attack was terrible, but I thought at times the offensive line had some bad moments, and you saw it with Oklahoma's ground game being stagnant. They entered this game averaging about 3 yards per carry. That's not very good if you plan on being a BCS team. They ended up in this game with just over 3 yards a carry. I thought Roy Finch, who did see some touches early in the first half, did a nice job. He averaged about 6 yards a carry. Had to leave the game in the middle because of a hand injury, but it doesn't right now appear to be that serious. 10 carries for 59 yards for Finch. DeMarco Murray was very productive. He saw 11 touches in this game, but was heavily utilized as a receiver with a total of 10 catches for 73 yards. So DeMarco Murray was utilized heavily, as much as a receiver as he was a rusher. So the ground game was not at its best tonight, but it didn't need to be because of the way the defense played and because of the passing attack for the Sooners. Now, key number 3, and that is defensive line, time to step it up. In this case, I'm going to go B- for Oklahoma. It was a much better performance in this game. Granted, Colorado's offense is nothing like Mizzou's. Regardless, though, Cody Hawkins had 27 incompletions, only 17 completions in this game. And I like the fact that Oklahoma was able to show blitzes at times, so Cody Hawkins didn't know what he was going to get when he threw the ball. Not a very productive night for the Buffaloes. They ended up with less than 270 total yards. By the way, give it up to Oklahoma. They had over 600 total yards, so B- in that category. And then number 4, quit kicking yourselves, referring to Oklahoma's special teams, which last week was lethargic and at times was very costly with a short missed field goal and, of course, giving up that long kickoff return for a touchdown. This week, much better grade. I'm going to go A- because of the fact that the Sooners made both of their field goals in the early going and also had a block punt, which led to an instant safety. Tressway had a couple of punts tonight that were inside the Colorado 20, leading to bad field position for CU. So a much better special teams performance on Halloween Eve than what we saw against Missouri the week prior. So for the Sooners, offensively, especially the passing game, I thought it was terrific. Thought Landry Jones played very well, and I love the way the defense played, especially the secondary. So the Sooners, it was expected to be a big win. It was just that. The game was pretty much over at the end of the third quarter. In fact, the Sooners, if you stayed up to watch the fourth quarter, and God love you if you did, you saw a lot of second-teamers play. So the Sooners at that point basically called the dogs off and got their backups into the game, and they played pretty much the bulk of the fourth quarter. So it was an opportunity to see guys like Calhoun, who unfortunately got hurt in that fourth quarter, but also somebody like another true freshman, Brennan Clay from San Diego. He got some quality playing time as well. Love to see those backups get as much quality playing time as you can. So Oklahoma at 7-1 overall. They figured to move up a little bit in the upcoming polls because of the losses that both Missouri and Michigan State suffered this past Saturday. They're no longer undefeated. For the Colorado Buffaloes, they simply have to win 3 of their last 4 at least to get to bowl eligibility. They're at 3-5. I'm not saying that they can't beat Kansas State, Kansas, and Iowa State, but it's going to be a chore trying to beat all 3 of them the way the Buffaloes have been playing lately. And they close out the year at Nebraska. 0% chance that they're going to win that game, of course. For the Sooners, they will play a Texas A&M team. And I know that A&M's lost 3 games already this season. I know what Mizzou did at A&M a couple of weeks ago. They blew them out. But remember, A&M's 3 losses this season have come to ranked teams. Mizzou, Oklahoma State, and Arkansas. And today we saw A&M go with a different quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, who had been utilized as a receiver. Tannehill was outstanding today against Texas Tech. So Oklahoma, we know that they are not a terrific road team. The Sooners have to go to College Station on Saturday, November the 6th, and that game will be a night game, 6 o'clock on Fox Sports Net, the Sooners and the Aggies. Some other Big 12 notes. We did mention that A&M beat Texas Tech. Texas Tech, by the way, might be the worst team in the Big 12 South, and I think they should have a big billboard in Lubbock, if they don't already, with Mike Leach's face pictured saying, "Miss me yet?" They certainly were much better under Leach, and so far, even though it's just his first year, nothing seems to be going Tommy Tuberville's way at Red Raider land lately. It's been a long season for those guys, and it could continue to get longer because they still have some interesting games coming up. Other games, Iowa State, after that win over Texas, you knew it was going to be hard for the Cyclones to get up to play Kansas, and it looked like it in the beginning, but the Cyclones in the second half have a big third quarter, and they do win 28-16, even though they don't cover the spread against the pathetic Jayhawks. Oklahoma State, you have to give them credit. They didn't have Justin Blackmon, who was suspended for this game because of his arrest earlier in the week. Cowboy fans already know the gist of that story. Didn't matter because they didn't need him today, as the Cowboys, with a strong second half, outlast Kansas State. And as I mentioned earlier, I'll say it again, Kansas State has no passing game whatsoever. The Cowboys bounced back with a win after the loss at home to Nebraska the week prior. Speaking of Nebraska, they are clearly the team to beat in the Big 12 North. They run the table, and it looks like they're going to. They will represent the North in the Big 12 championship game after they take care of Missouri, thanks to Roy Halou Jr.'s 300-yard-plus rushing attack. And yes, that is a Nebraska school record. Nebraska got off to a 24-0 lead, hitting Missouri in the mouth repeatedly. Give Missouri credit for at least battling the rest of the way, but it was simply too big of a deficit to catch up from. So Missouri falls from the ranks of the unbeaten. And the nightmare continues for the Texas Longhorns, as the boys from Austin have now lost 4 games, including 3 home games. Very unheard of. And how about this? They lose to the team that was picked to finish dead last in the Big 12 South, the Baylor Bears. But Baylor, boy, what a season they're having. They are now 7-2 on the year. And I know Robert Griffin, the Baylor quarterback's not going to win the Heisman Trophy. He should at least get an invite because he's one exciting player to watch, and he definitely makes that Baylor Bear engine go. They're much better offensively this year, and they are winning, and they're already going to a bowl game, but they might be playing in a bowl game that's a little bigger than what we had realized just a week ago, because they're 7-2, and Texas, I don't know what else what other adjectives you can say about the Longhorns. I mean, we say disappointing, but maybe frustrating. And I can imagine what sports talk radio in Austin's going to be like this upcoming week. Probably some assistant coaches, if they haven't already been calling for Greg Davis's head. I'm sure that talk's going to be escalated about 5 times as high after what happened in Austin on Saturday, with Baylor going into Austin and stunning the Texas Longhorns with another big game for Robert Griffin III. And by the way, he's only a sophomore. Yeah, that game at Baylor that Oklahoma will have here pretty soon, not going to be as easy of a game as we thought. But we'll worry about that in about 3 weeks, because that's when the Sooners and the Bears will play in Waco. Final score, again, of the Sooner game, they win big, as expected, 43-10 over Colorado. In just a few days, I'll have my weekly matchup show of the Sooners and the Texas A&M Aggies from College Station. So get those hankies ready, Aggie fans, because the Sooners are coming. Take it easy.